Good morning. Okay, come on in. Got a front row seat for everybody. 2% CEO Habits of Profitability. Frank, welcome. Hey, as you all come in, if you could put the city that you're in the chat box, it'll give me a better feel for who's in the room to really light things up, and that way we can address the conversation to your specific interests. All right, Brent, Kristen, welcome to the event here. Yeah. See, Paul's in the room with us. Hey, Helen, how are you doing? Where are you from? Bogota, beautiful. I was in Colombia, South America not too long ago. Before the pandemic, no doubt. Fairfax, Helen, great. Douglas, Traverse City, very nice. So if you're just coming in, if you put the city that you reside in, it gives me a better feel for who's in the room. And you just never know what kind of example. Knoxville, I was at Fort Knox when I was back in the Army. Armor, yeah, German, they're nice. San Antonio, excellent. We have a good wide range of people. People are all spread out. Boulder, we've got a CEO coach in Denver. McLean, very nice. Michael from Virginia Beach. This is going to be a great session. We're talking about how taking what you guys are experts at and combining it with financial management to really, and we'll give it literally one more minute, and then I'm going to kick things off in a big way for us. Very good. Yeah, if you're just coming in, punch in your city and state. We got Annapolis, California, Dayton, Ohio, very nice. Excellent. Let me see here. Okay, and we got a fantastic group. So as I talk, if you have questions, put them into the chat box. I'm going to try to monitor the chat box and give you guys a great experience. Webinar is a little bit of a monologue, but the whole idea is that if the message resonates with you, the call to action is contact me, and we'll get on the phone and talk about your specific business. But to kick things off, my name is Kirk. I'm the CEO of Foresight CFO, and we are the growth CFO and accounting firm with 32 people spread across 3 different continents doing impact financial management for CEOs globally. I mean, we have customers obviously in the United States all the way to Iceland and Pakistan. So there's we have a global reach using the technology platform that we're on now. So in addition to having the privilege of leading Foresight to global expansion, I teach financial management at Georgetown University for grad students. It's part of that the same mission to help people at different points in their career do better by using the numbers. It's the kind of stuff that most of us aren't trained to do. Read financial statements, use the numbers to make decisions. But it's such a good catalyst to what you're already good at and the reason why you went into business. So that, what you're good at and using the numbers is part of the mission for both Foresight and why I teach at Georgetown. The 2% CEO Habits of Profitability came out of over 30 years of building private businesses, most of the time with a team of people whom I'm working side by side with. And now I can say through both recessions and soon I'll be able to say through pandemics, the habits, the fundamentals, using numbers still work, right? So before Foresight, kind of between college, before Foresight, I literally served in the United States Army, and I have 2 sons who are continuing the legacy by starting their careers out at West Point Military Academy. So you might get a feel for the discipline execution, using the numbers, the importance of having clarity about what matters in your business. There's so many different things that are whirlwind that take our attention, but having clarity about what matters, having confidence about making the right choice, and then implementation, right? So that we get the impacts that you're looking for. So you might see the combination of that military experience combined with 30 years of building private businesses, come into our discussion today. So just a reminder, if you got a question, drop it into the chat box. If I don't answer it here because I'm trying to monitor the dashboard. I will get back with you to talk through about what's going on in your specific business. So to ground us in the habits of profitability, I really want to get back to, why did you start your business? I mean, some of us are inspired. We want to do something, meaningful in our own lives. A lot of us we're freedom fighters, right? We want to have more time and more money, where basically you have the financial resources to do what you want when you want, right? Also, you may just want to do something that matters. I mean, job creation or that product or service, whatever it is that is coming from a concept in your head to reality. You may just want to be driven to do that. So are these resonating with you at all? I mean, why did you go into business? Sometimes you hit a certain point in your career, there could be something going on in the economy, you can't get a job. It's time to get busy and figure something out. Some are fortunate enough to be born into a family business, right? Where you grow up just absorbing what's around you, and then you want to take the family business, to that next step. Another reason why you might get in business is that multi-generational wealth creation. Not only earning household income month to month, but maybe you want to, put your family on a different plane for multiple generations. The vast majority of wealth in the United States is created from business, right? From good old-fashioned capitalism. So throughout this discussion, think about the habits and how they help you achieve your reason for going into business. Okay, so let's kind of take the next step here. So I want to make the analogy that being a great successful CEO is something like being a fighter pilot, right? You're moving fast, you're high performing, you have a clear objective. In the current environment where the economy is contracting, we'll figure out how do we pivot to get through a recession when you can't go outside because of the pandemic. And a lot of us expected that there's going to be hyperinflation to follow the current challenges that we're under. So most of us haven't experienced hyperinflation since the 1970 oil shocks, right? So as a fighter pilot, you can feel it, right? You're moving fast, your objectives are clear, your team helped prepare you for today's mission, and you have a dashboard, right? You can see, across your dashboard what's going on inside the machine to make sure everything's working from flight to, the oxygen systems that keep you alive. You can literally see what's red, green, and yellow, what's working. And then beyond your machine, you can look out your visor and you can see what's ahead of you. And if you're using your instruments again, you can see even beyond what you can see with the naked eye. So that's what it's like to be a CEO, high performance on a good day where the numbers are coming in. And as a jet fighter pilot, just like a CEO, you don't want things to sneak up on you, because when they do, this is the consequence, right? You didn't see something inside your machine where you got a kink in the hose, it's not working anymore, or something in the external environment, a competitor or threat snuck up on you and literally knocked you out of the sky. Oftentimes it's cash, right? You got great ideas, you got a great team, but the cash is not keeping up with the business, right? And that's like, like fuel in your gas tank. When it runs out, the plane drops, right? So that's the consequence. So as a leader of your business, you're the expert at what you do, and but you can't get there alone, right? Fighter pilots have the ground crew, they have the strategic folks who identify targets, what matters to the business. You have your wing person that's guiding you, and you have your teammates that you're flying with. So you literally can't get there alone. And this is time tested, going back to 1929 with Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, all the way to current thinking, Drucker, all the way through 4 Disciplines of Execution. Having the right guide so that you're not reinventing the wheel and doing trial and error, having the right people and using the numbers goes a long ways to, having a business that's achieving your why and has enough, financial resources to keep going, even in challenging circumstances like today. So just to remind, this is what happens when we don't have the right people. We're not using the numbers, right? We don't have the expert guide helping us, see what we don't know from our firsthand experience. So more than ever, having these things on your side, stacking the deck in your favor are important. I mean, we're in front of a recession, pandemics, social justice, the economic stimulus, when something like $10 trillion is being put into the U.S. economy, and then to follow that, spending money that we literally don't have, good chance we're going to see hyperinflation. So how do we think about that to be ahead of it, and at the same time, within global competition and changing supply chains, right? And changing how your team members expect to work, because if they've been commuting all these years, they've been working from home the last 4 months, they might have different expectations coming back, right? Just maybe. So let's think about it. How do CEOs gain that clarity and that confidence and the impact? From working with hundreds of CEOs globally, we extracted 5 habits that make a difference. So let's make sure that you have good numbers. Let's make sure that you manage cash well. Let's use the habits to identify the right growth options, the right targets. Let's create that financial roadmap. And let's shake up possibilities, right? Now, kind of a little bit of a cliffhanger on what shaking up possibilities are as we step through the habits here. So to get even a better sense of who's in the room, I'm gonna put up the poll and ask you all to respond to the poll question. There's 2 questions, and your answer is anonymous, right? We're going to show the statistical results to the group, but we're not going to show anybody's name on what answer they have. So if we can get to 70% of respondents, that would be great. So the first question is, what is your top line revenue number? And the second question is, this year with COVID, do you expect your revenues to increase, decrease, or stay about the same? And I'll share the response so that everybody can see, who's in the room here. Another right, 60, right, all right. A few more, if one more person answers, we hit our 70% threshold. Ah, we made it, fantastic. I love the numbers. I love it when they work for us. Okay, there's a few more seconds and I'm gonna close the poll and share the results with you. Okay, we're wrapping it up. Okay, so take a look at this. I mean, roughly 40% are doing 5 million plus. So 60% are in that earlier or that revenue stage phase. And then, this result, really surprises me. Almost over 60% of the folks expect revenue to stay about the same or increase. So roughly 30, 30, 30, one third in each category. Really interesting because the economy as a whole is contracting, but the majority of the people expect to do the same or better, in its group. So it's really interesting. That helps me know how to guide the conversation. So thank you for for responding to the poll. Okay, let's get back into the game here. Okay, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna step through the habits of profitability. And again, think about how this applies to your business. If you can get 1 or 2 things out of this webinar that you want to take to that next step of performance to complement what you went in business for, then I'm gonna say mission accomplished. If you want to go beyond that, then contact me. We'll talk through specifics about your business. But the first habit of profitability is make sure that you have good numbers, right? This is your foundation. This is your accounting operation. So if you're not on accrual accounting, learn about what it is and why you can benefit to switch to accrual accounting, because that is the only way to measure profitability, where you're matching up revenue and direct costs, so that if you can measure profitability, you can start to engineer profitability instead of just letting profit happen. But when done right, your financial team produces financial statements on time every month, within a week, at the maximum 2 weeks after the month ends, preferably the first week, because 2 weeks you're starting to lose part of the year there. You want to teach your P&L manager. Most of us were never taught how to read financials or how to use the number story to identify what actions I can take as a manager. So you want to teach managers to take ownership for their numbers and to brief you, are they over or under the budget? If so, why? And then what action will they take, right? So just imagine the weight coming off your shoulders as your management team starts taking that level of responsibility for each part of your business, even down to the project level. When you have the numbers, a lot of the uncertainty and confusion starts to evaporate. And then when you're using the numbers, every month you're getting better at managing direct costs in respect to the revenue or the price that you're charging for goods or services. So as you gain confidence in your ability to deliver services and you're defending your gross profit margin because you're managing the costs for each product and service, you're able to price more competitively. You're able to win more contracts. You're able to win more customers if price is a factor in that equation, which it is for many of us. And at the same time, even though you're pricing more competitively, you're still getting the profit margin that you need to in your business to do well, right, and to be well. So start out, the habit is every month on schedule with the P&L manager, start by looking at the financial statements, and it only gets better. After 3 months, we're getting used to it. If it's a new exercise, by month 6, you can't imagine making a decision without having the numbers in front of you, without looking at the actual results. And financials are looking backwards, so where have we come from, right? The perfect complement to the monthly financials, because every month is 8% of the year. You really, it's not excellent to wait 8% of the year to be gone before you know what the key performance indicators are. So combining the weekly key performance indicators, KPI, as a flight dashboard, just like the fighter jet pilot, really helps you and your managers, sales, operational, delivery. By having the right KPIs, you can see the kinks and holes, what's not working as expected. So that very same day, that very same week, they know where to go in and what to resolve for that week, so that the entire machine is working as expected. Perfect complement. Otherwise, you're waiting for financials or some other measurement on a monthly basis, and too many weeks have slipped by before you can really resolve what needs to be resolved. So if you don't have a dashboard, start with one, even if it's just take an Excel spreadsheet and put one number that you want to start out by tracking. Then by the second week, maybe there's another number. So don't let the perfection with the technology solution prevent you from getting started today. So in the webinar, think about what number, if you're not already doing this, would really help you to be on top of every single week, and then go from there to have the same 1, 2, or 3 numbers for each key function in your business that's driving results. Okay, so that's habit 1, is using the financials every month like a scoreboard, and that weekly KPI. So let's take the next step. I mean, cash, right? Cash is what there are businesses that are not profitable, but they have cash. They'll stay in business. And it's possible to be profitable, but if you're not collecting from your clients and managing your cash well, that you'll be profitable on your P&L statement, but your bank account is not showing the benefits of that. So you run out of cash. So just like a jet, if the cash runs out, just like fuel in an aircraft, the plane drops. It drops fast. Some of us, depending on your position, if you're growing or you're probably not so much, but if you're about the same or contracting, maybe you're thinking about ways that you can conserve cash. I mean, did you review your P&L every month to scrub out what things do you not need? Sometimes there's legacy expenses that, quite frankly, nobody's using the resources that are being paid for. So scrub things out that you don't need anymore from your P&L. That's good as a monthly practice. Make sure you pay vendors based on the payment due dates, not beforehand. Sometimes the accounting department just process vendor payments. Maybe negotiate payment extensions, with or restructure your debt with lenders or landlords or other lending things that you have. This might be a good time, if you haven't already done it, to expand your line of credit. Some would even say draw down your line of credit, because we fully expect that as the stimulus money runs out, the banks have already started to tighten lending, and we fully expect that that's going to increase as we go in from now to year end. and the cumulative pressures of a changing economy, literally a COVID economy, starts to really catch up with us. So, and there's certainly federal and state funding sources that had not existed before, like the PPP money. There's still, through early August, if you haven't done that, there's opportunities to get funded by the Payroll Protection Program. So just like Sir Richard Branson says, I mean, never take your eyes off cash. I mean, it's literally the fuel in your tank to keep things going. And there's two things that will help you keep your eyes on cash. The first one is you develop that weekly cash forecast. I mean, when you have money coming in, by your key clients or your key products, when are you getting paid from your customers? And match that up across 12 or 13 weeks on when you're making key payments like payroll and payroll tax, rent, whatever your key payments are. That way you can match up the short-term timing to make sure the ins are greater than the outs so that your bank account is at a healthy level. So it's kind of a short range. You're kind of looking at your visor, but you're looking right in front of the plane. It gives you a short range view to compensate for those short, temporary timing differences between when you do the work and lay out expenses and you actually get paid by your clients. Another kind of rarely used tool by even financial professionals is called your cash conversion cycle. But how can I get my money, instead of having negative cash flow? And negative cash flow means, like, the traditional way of doing business is you do the work on 1 month, and meanwhile you got payroll and rent to make. Then after the month ends, you bill the client within the first or second week of the month. And then for some reason, I don't know who invented this, but you give net 30 as term. Hey, it's the second month here, but you can pay me in 30 days. So if your client pays you on time, there's something like 60 to 90 days between when you laid out, payroll multiple times and rent multiple times, and you actually get paid. So I'm not sure, there's no law saying that we have to do things that way. So I'm not sure how things got started. But a good practice is measure. How long does it take you from when you do the work to when you bill the client? Ideally, you get prepaid, right? Like the software as a service company, they get prepaid. Sometimes they get prepaid for a full 12 months ahead, like the old magazine companies. So you literally measure. You can look at the billing. If my billing time is 21 days, in this example, if I do it 1 week faster, I do it in 14 days, I'm freeing up, $566,000 of working capital, right? So my business is less capital intensive, and not only does that put more cash in the bank, but it makes my business more valuable. So at the point in my business cycle, I'm ready to step back. My business is that much more valuable because it doesn't require the consumption of working capital to operate, or requires less. The same thing from accounts receivable. From the day you bill the customer to when you get paid, what's the average day sales outstanding for your company, and where do you stand compared to the competitive benchmarks for your industry? Sometimes that alone will open up your eyes, and the rest is same kind of thinking for payables to your vendors and inventory. How long is the inventory? How many days is it in your business before it gets sold and you can bill a client for it? So the cash conversion cycle, the best practice is to do this twice a year and pick 1 or 2 things where you can challenge status quo, you can move the dial, and literally you can estimate how much additional cash you expect to have in the bank as a result of this. Rarely used. Even financial people don't touch that very often, which kind of surprises me. Okay, so let's pick things up here. So we got the third habit of profitability. It's like that jet fighter identifying what's our mission, what's our objective. Planes don't launch unless they know what they're going after, right? And they got plan A, plan B, and plan C lined up because things happen. So identifying the right growth option for a business owner, because there's such a whirlwind. I mean, every conference you go to, every webinar you get on, there's so many things that you could do. How do you make sense of it? For us, it comes down to these 8 drivers. And basically what you're doing is you're reducing the business dependency on any one area in order so that in order not to hit stall points. Like, for example, if the owner is doing most of the selling, or if most of the employees report to the owner, or if the owner's still involved in delivery, you might have owner's trap going on, right? So no matter how broad my wingspan is, it's still finite. It's like I can only go so far if the business is dependent on me. And when it's time to step back from my business, if I am the business, my business is a lot less valuable, and I'll probably get tied up into an earnout that on average goes for about 2.5 years, where I'm definitely going to lose value in terms of what I agreed to transfer my business with. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, uniqueness, right? If you got something that's really unique and your customers care, you get a price premium that you can invest back into sales and marketing and operations, right? So uniqueness is a major value of profitability today and the value of your business tomorrow, right? And what cash cows do you have versus rising stars? What's coming next, where you always have that value proposition based on what your clients care about. You could also be faced right now growth potential, right? I mean, do I need a pivot? I would do an assessment between my current customers versus new customers, current products and services versus new ones. Do I need a pivot? If the market has contracted for what I do, and my clients don't have the ability to pay, maybe I need to figure out where the low-hanging fruit is to pivot into new clients, new marketplace, new products, whatever it is. The growth potential is the lens in which to do that. The rest is recurring revenue, more predictable, positive cash flow. We talked about that. Not being dependent, being process driven versus key employee driven, where when you get that knock on the door and somebody's going to step back from the business, it's going to set you back 6 months, because the know-how to do that function that you depend on is in somebody's head and is about to go somewhere else. So these 8 drivers, based on a database of 34,000 private companies, if your score is 80 plus on the drivers, we know for a fact that on average that business is 71% more valuable at that time than it would be otherwise. It makes sense, right? I'm unique. I'm not dependent on the owner or a key employee or customer. We got recurring revenue versus project revenue. Makes more sense. A business with more of those qualities versus less is going to be more valuable, more profitable, easier to manage, so you have more time to actually live your life, and transferable. When you want to step back from business, you're able to do that. Okay, so habit 3, identifying the right growth options. Look at the drivers combined with some of the things that we're talking about. Strategically growing your business with an eye towards the ultimate exit. There's 7 succession options, like son or daughter might want to step in. In ESOP, where the employees, you take a loan and employees buy part or all the business. You could do a third-party sale. You could do an IPO, right? There's 7 different succession options. And if you know what they are, the decisions that we make early on in the foundation stage, all the way through to growth, are more aligned with opening up more options to you, so that you choose the right one for you based on your lifestyle preferences and your financial objectives. Okay, so that's habit 3, is identifying the right growth options. The 4th habit of profitability, this one is like a flight plan, right? This is that financial roadmap. Some people call it a budget, but a budget doesn't sound good, right? So at least call it a 12-month rolling forecast. If you want to call it a budget, we will. But this is where you take your baseline, based on how the business operates today, and you can do the what if. What if we extend into a new marketplace? What if we sell this way versus that way? What if we do some R&D to become more efficient in our process and how we deliver, right? So you got your baseline business with a what if, and then it should, if you're running the financial roadmap, if you're running your numbers, you can literally see what the impact of different growth options are. What do you expect to get out of it? In this example, we're showing a 1% change in pricing revenue, managing your direct costs 1% better, and then managing our overhead 1% better. It produces 38.6%, so 39% increase in profitability. Oh, wow. Well, then you do, well, what if I focus on the sweet spot? What client can I really help maybe I can get a 5% increase in pricing. Well, what does that do? Right? So maybe you do less work and have more on the bottom line to show for it, maybe. Right? So this is your flight plan, and the habit is before you go into the next year, based on whatever month it is, run out your forecast, that rolling 12-month forecast, all the way to the next year. And then at certain intervals, certain natural parts of your business cycle, reforecast. So you're always planning and executing across 12 months, right? It's a skill. It's new for a lot of managers, but you do it a few times, start to get really good at it. And if there's an influx, like in March, pandemic, things have changed, good time to reforecast. What options do we have? Look at the growth potential, and based on those options, run the numbers. And this becomes your flight plan. So you put this in your financial system, and now habit one, your monthly financials have the variance. Are we over or under what we expected for this month? And then you can act proactively before the year's over. What do you do to get back on track? Or if you're doing better than expected, how do you really capitalize on opportunity? What's driving that better than expected result? So having, creating that financial roadmap, running the numbers, you see it in an Excel sheet and then execute, but use the numbers to make sure you're landing right where you want to land. Okay, so that's habit 4, create your financial roadmap. Okay, habit 5, this is where we shake up possibilities. Up until now, everything we looked at has been internal. Habit 1 is the financial statements like a scoreboard. Habit 2 is the cash management, all the way through options to habit 5 is the first time we're looking beyond your company. How do we compare to our competitive benchmarks, our industry, right? Do I have the competitive benchmarks for my peers, right? But a lot of times we CEOs, we don't really know how we kind of know our profitability. We kind of think we know where we stand, but once you see the numbers, then it's crystal clear. And we use the same database for competitive benchmarking that a lot of banks use. So if we're trying to get a loan, we know how a bank's going to look at our numbers before we go and ask that loan. And that way we can position things and sometimes clean things up, so we're more likely to get access to capital at the favorable terms that we want. And an example here of a company, how beyond getting loans, how the competitive benchmark can actually open our eyes to make different decisions about how we build our business. Is you look at this example, that an actual company in Maryland was doing just over 2% year to year, 1.5%, 2%. And for them, a 30-year-old business, this is great, right? This is normal. This is what we do in our industry. But the minute the data spoke, and the industry is actually doing 10% profitability, so it's 5 times more profitable, the average company, not even top percentile, the room is silent. But the good news is, it's not judgmental, it's just numbers, it's data, it's input. The good news is that it tells us how can we drive better results, right? And would a 5-time increase in profit, you can calculate the dollar amount, with an additional X number of dollars be worthwhile to do this, to do the effort, do the work that's needed to get these results. And the same thing as current ratio. Current ratio shows how many dollars do I have for each dollar of expense, right? Basically. The company was doing about $1.29 for every dollar of expense, but at least they have more than enough, $1.30 for every dollar of expense. So it's tight, but it's still workable. Versus the average company had $3.27 for every dollar of liability. So that guess what CEO is sweating payroll and which one is not, right? And which one has more money to invest in that next stage of performance, both sales and operational. So benchmarks are really useful. I mean, they're a game changer. And the same, kind of part 2 of habit 5, shaking up possibilities, is get your valuation. And I'm not saying go to Price Waterhouse and spend $20,000 for a valuation. I'm saying do a manager level valuation, which means you run the numbers. Best practice is to do a discounted cash flow, so you're forecasting forward and what's the value of that money in present dollars. A common way of doing it is more like a multiple of your EBITDA, right, of your earnings, based on your industry. Average company's doing about 3.5. the performing company's doing 6, and if you got a strategic buyer, you can beat it as 6 times multiple, depending on what industry you're in. But I'm talking to averages because we're a group here. So if you're doing those 2 things, best practice is to do those at least once a year. Like before you go into next year's planning, run the competitive benchmarks, do the manager level evaluation, because it's going to give you something, 1, 2, or 3 things that you can act on that's going to, make your business more profitable today and more valuable tomorrow. But you can only do that if you got the instruments. Otherwise, it's all, it's kind of foggy out there. You're not quite sure. So to ground us, I mean, the 5 habits of profitability are the 2% CEOs method. That these methods complement what CEOs went into business for, what they're really good at, right? And through the habits, having good numbers, managing cash flow, making sure you identify the right growth options, to creating that financial roadmap. So we know if we're over or under month to month, and then shaking up possibilities so that our thinking, right? We don't have a fixed mindset. We have a learning mindset. These are the ways that help CEOs gain clarity and confidence about what they're going, and then achieving the financial impacts, meaning increase profitability, accelerate cash, and maximize the value of your business. These are the habits that complement what you do, but they're skills. So depending on where your team is at and your own experience, they're learned skills that can be taught and then mastered through use. Kind of a key thing, since a lot of us, you go into business, you need a bookkeeper, because if you do it yourself, most of the time it gets pretty wrapped around the axle. Pretty soon you figure out you got to have a tax preparer, right? So the business that are further along the road, you need these as necessary ingredients to run your business. The role I'm talking about goes beyond that. It's a wing person who's can really guide you on your business growth and challenge the leadership team to avoid stall points, right? And it's those kinds of things that, beyond the accountant, controller, making sure that we have good numbers, which is day-to-day operations. Accounting is somewhat of a factory, right? You process bills, you process collections, you make the calls, you run vendor payments, payroll, financial statements, tax compliance. It's a factory, right? It's very, very, processing transactions. Growth CFO is something different, right? What are the growth options, right? You set the table with those 8 drivers and options all the way through through succession, where you have the option to step back on the business on some basis, even half retiring, managing cash well, creating that financial roadmap, increasing the financial performance. So it's taking the pressure off you. And then the growth CFO is forward looking, going beyond what we know for sure today. So at Foresight, we help CEOs, we help them win more customers, keep the customers they have the right people capacity to deliver quality results, have access to capital. I mean, we know what the banks are going to say and lenders are going to say oftentimes even before we go to them. And then, systematically in 90-day sprints, how to achieve that top percentile financial performance so that we can breathe again. We do this through growth CFO work and accounting service. So we're bringing the numbers and this kind of disciplined execution to CEOs who are out in front making things happen. We're able to beat full-time CFOs because we go way beyond the experience of any individual CFO. We actually deliver. Every client weekly has 2 or 3 CFOs who are working backstage to help make sure that the primary CFO really has their eyes open and are hitting what matters most. And in that way, we're able to, for a relatively modest investment, we're able to deliver huge returns, both profitability, cash in the bank, and then that incremental value increase in the business. So if you're interested in how financial management, specifically impact financial management, combines to help you, with your skills, combines with your skills to help you get your business to where you want to go, to achieve the why that you went into business, just shoot me either an email, text, phone call, whatever works best for you. We'll hop on a call and just start out by asking questions about your business, what your goals are, and kind of where you're at with that to figure out what might make sense. So that's the 2% CEO Habits of Profitability. We will send a link to download the slides out. And I look forward, for those of you that we can jump in and roll up our sleeves with, I look forward to talking with you to really figuring out what that would look like. So until then, I'll look at the chat box. Until then, wish you all well. And as a globe, as a country, as Americans, we're going to get out of the pandemic we've been through tough times before, and we'll get through this tough time as well. So be well. Take care of yourselves.